Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Frozen Oil, and today we are recapping the trade deadline for 2025. So welcome aboard, and welcome to the episode. Terry, welcome back, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
We also have Rod in the house.
Hey, Richie.
And Sam, the Twitter master in the hizzy.
What up, Rich?
Word up, boys. So the Oilers trade deadline is complete as of 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, 3 o'clock Eastern. And we're just going to quickly go over the moves the Oilers made. So let's get right into that, fellas. So, here we go. We're going to kick it off with the big trade from March 4th, which brought Trent Frederick to the Edmonton Oilers, as well as Max Jones, and we gave up essentially a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and Shane Lachance, who is a prospect that was not planning on signing with the Oilers anyways. So essentially, that's what we gave up. New Jersey was involved in the trade. They picked up Lachance to retain $575,000 of Frederick's contract. So that was deal one. And then deal two was pretty much finalized last night, but it wasn't announced till this morning officially. But we picked up Jake Wallman from the San Jose Sharks for Carl Berglund and a 2026 first rounder. I think it's protected, but I doubt that protection will come into play. And that pretty much does it for the trades. So let's just go in order here. We'll start it off with you, T-Dot. What did you think of the trades? What do you think of how the Oilers did?
I mean, they definitely addressed some of the issues that they had going into this trade deadline. Obviously, there's two big ones I think that they didn't address. So, I mean, ultimately, it's going to come down to who's going to step up on that left wing beside Draisaitl, if we can get somebody there, and what kind of Stuart Skinner we're going to get going into the playoffs. Those are obviously the two big ones. They added a top four D-man in Wallman. They added a little bit of depth as well. So ultimately, we're going to have to see who's going to step up on the left side there and what kind of goaltending we're going to get.
And yeah, goaltending was probably the hottest topic going into this trade deadline, and they obviously didn't make a move on that. Rod, what do you think? What do you think of the moves that Bowman made?
I agree with everything that Terry said. Spot on. I think they could have made a couple of extra moves. I think a fourth line center would have been really helpful. But I think Frederick could probably play with Draisaitl. Let's hope so. And Wallman, I think he's going to be a pretty good top four defenseman for us. So I do like the moves, but I think with the little cap space that we've left, fourth line centerman, and honestly, a third goalie. I thought someone like Reimer, he's at $1 million, about half a million, would have been a nice number three on the bench in case of injuries. That's my opinion.
So right now, if God forbid there is an injury, basically, who is Rodrigue coming in, or?
Basically, that's it, and
Yeah.
that's the scary part.
Yeah. Okay. How about you there, Sam? You're looking like Obi-Wan Kenobi on Endor there. What's going on? You got the Force.
Force light.
What's it called? Force Ghost or something like that going on?
That's how I roll.
All right, buddy.
So
happy with the trade deadline moves? Do you think they could have done more? Did you think they went all in?
They definitely added some size, which is good. They needed that. Frederick is going to be huge for us.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish they grabbed like a top six a forward to play with, especially Draisaitl. He keeps playing with different forward after different forward after different forward. It's unbelievable what he's doing with the players he's playing with. Just imagine what he would be able to do with just like I said, a top 6 forward. So hopefully one of these guys that we picked up will fit in with him, like maybe a Frederick. We'll see what happens. As for Wallman, the games I know he played in Detroit, he did very well. I mean, he's known for that shootout win, but overall, he played very well with that team. So hopefully, that will continue with us. And I like Rod was saying, I was looking for possibly just I'm not saying a starting goalie, but just a backup, just in case, we fall into like a 3-4 game losing streak, and all the Oiler fans go up in arms. We lose, 5-0, 5-1, and then we win next game. It's back and forth. We need a goalie. We don't need a goalie. So hopefully Skinner and
you were really getting hammered on X there with all the goaltending comments throughout the year. Just so many Oiler faithful up in arms about just they had enough of this tandem with Skinner and Pickard, and at the end of the day, we put out a tweet today like, that's it. It's done. They didn't make the move, and now it's time for us to get everybody to get behind this tandem, and just we're going to war. We're going into the playoffs with these guys, so it's kind of like, let's do it.
I do have a question. So who's the upgrade on Skinner out there available?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And
right.
And at the end of the day, you got to make players available by making an offer, that maybe they can't refuse. But it was kind of throughout the whole season kind of hinted at that the Oilers were not going to make a move on goaltending. And I mean, there was a lot of rumors, here and there about different goalies, and obviously Blackwood was available, and they didn't make a move on that. Yeah. So just kind of seemed like the whole season they just were standing pat on this combo in net, and that's what we're riding into the playoffs with. So there's not really too much we can do. For me personally, I was hoping that, like all of you, that there was at least an emergency made between the pipes for, God forbid, an injury or something. But I really, I can't wait to watch Frederick play, because I thought all year, I mean, you guys obviously watch the episodes, and, you guys see me all pissed off every time, like I look at the hits on the stats line, and we have single digits in the hits column, and just not enough energy a lot of the games from the Oilers. So, I mean, to bring in a guy like Max Jones, the energy kind of showed right away that he brought to the game and to the team. And then you still have Frederick coming. And I think, Sam, to kind of answer your question about bringing in, we still have Kane to come in, right? So I just don't know where you're going to fit all these guys, because Arvidsson didn't get moved, and neither did Jeff Skinner. So, I mean, we got a lot of options to move kind of around still, but I mean, time will tell. So
where is Skinner gonna play, really? Where is he gonna fit in this lineup?
I thought he should have been with Draisaitl the whole year, right? That's me personally, but
I think Kapanen's gonna be the odd man out when it comes to the playoffs. So Skinner, I mean, it's looking third or fourth line.
But I can't imagine, because you have Hopkins, you have Kane, you have Podkolzin, you have Frederick, and you have Janmark. Where does he play on the left wing? Like, there's no room for him.
And I think that's why they didn't get a forward, because they just have too many guys on the rosters with too many no movement clauses, and they just can't move anybody. And how many guys can you possibly bring in? Like, this just doesn't make sense, right? So
it's just that fourth line center, who's right now it's Kapanen. Like, that's not
Yeah.
good enough.
I thought Kapanen had a great, awesome game. Like, he was flying last game.
Yeah, but he's more of a winger than a centerman, right?
Almost like they told him, like, hey, man, if you don't start playing and trying, like, you're gone.
Well,
So-
it's either him or Brown that are looking like the guys that are not looking to be in the lineup here.
Yeah, because you're going
Jones-
to have, especially going into the playoffs, you're going to have Hyman, Arvidsson, and Perry. Obviously, those are the three that you're going to want there on the wing there, and then it's
Yeah.
going to be either Kapanen or Brown that's going to get X'd out of there, right? And then down the center, obviously, you're going to have, if you don't have to pair McDavid and Draisaitl up because you can't get any other scoring, but then you're going to have, obviously, McDavid, Draisaitl, Frederick, hopefully somewhere in there, and then Henrique down the center as well, right? It's that left side that we need.
Or swap Nuge on the third line center with Henrique. I think they'll kind of be able to swap positions there if necessary. So, yeah, well, that pretty much covers the trades that were made. We put a poll out on X asking how we, if Oilers faithful out there thought Stan Bowman went truly all in, and it was like something like 75 votes went in, and it was like 89% said no, they did not go all in as promised. So time will tell, boys. Time will tell.
It's really going to come down to, guys. It's going to come down to, it's beating a dead horse. It's going to come down to, are we going to get the first 3 games of the Stanley Cup Finals, Skinner, or are we going to get the last, 4 games of the Skinner? It's really going to come down to, are we going to get the Vancouver Canucks series round 2, Skinner, or are we going to the Dallas series?
I just hope we don't have to shuffle the goalies in the playoffs. That's a scary sight to see.
It was scary when they did that against the Vancouver series, right? And
Yeah.
And he played well. And it was scary when they shuffled it, right? Because Skinner was not playing well, and we almost lost that series, right?
You guys,
Yeah,
we can't
100%.
forget. We can't forget. Like, there's no assets. We have no more first-round picks for 2 more years.
Yeah,
We only have a couple of young guys. We can't trade them all. So look at Rantanen got 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and Stan Bowman. That's a huge.
Yeah, that's a
overall.
heavy price.
Yeah, right. So we don't have that.
I like to call Stankoven stinky. All right. Well, and just to touch on some other major moves, especially, coming to the West. Obviously, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know that Rantanen got moved to Dallas. Colorado made some huge moves. Terry, do you know what they are?
I want to look
They
at
got Brock Nelson from
Brock
from the Islanders.
Nelson.
Coyle,
Brock Nelson from the Islanders.
Nelson and Charlie
Coyle
Coyle.
from Boston.
Coyle from
Charlie
Boston.
Coyle from Boston. So they got bigger and badder too, because those aren't players that play light. They play heavy, both of them.
Luckily, we don't face them in the first round. Dallas and Colorado, man, that's gonna be.
And I
crazy.
think that's honestly maybe why the Oilers made their move as well. Like you said, Frederick and Jones, they're 2 big guys. I think they're both 6'3", 220 pounds, right? If Kane can come back, hopefully he's like I said in the chat. Hopefully he comes back like Stone and he's on fire and he's throwing hits and he brings energy. I don't know if he's going to or not, but yeah, the Oilers definitely beefed up a little bit. I think Bowman he's a fairly large guy, 6'1", I think, like that. So he's bigger, but he's a solid D man. I mean, the guy's pretty much even plus minus, playing with the worst team in the league, right? So he's a good puck moving defenseman for sure.
I like the Wallman trade myself.
And he's having a breakout year, points wise as well.
I read somewhere that Greer didn't want to trade him.
I was just gonna say,
Mike
Mike Greer's done us a couple solids
with Emerson in him, yeah.
He's got that oil blood in him still.
for sure.
But
So I did wanna share something with you and all of our viewers, actually. And since we're mentioning our viewers, we did just recently surpass, believe it or not, 600 hardcore Oiler fan followers. So want to just thank everyone for following and take this opportunity to recommend subscribing to the channel so we can bring you cool videos like this and just chat what we all chat when we're driving around town and meeting with our friends or at the office. When we talk Oilers, this is exactly what we talk about. So that's what we're trying to bring to you guys, and thanks so much for those that have subscribed. So let's quickly, and I didn't tell you guys I was going to do this, so I just wanted you guys to hear. Stan Bowman did do an interview. It wasn't too long ago, and I have it here on X. So we're just going to, I have like 4 timestamps of some questions, and I just wanted to share those ones with you guys. So, and the first one is from the very beginning. They didn't waste any time with this. They just, right off the bat, got straight to the goaltending situation. So I'm just gonna quickly mute the background music so everyone can hear. All right.
How are you? Sorry to keep you waiting.
Hi, Stan. Preston Hodgkinson, Daily Hive, Edmonton. Goaltending has been a hot topic in the city this season. You obviously decided to stand pat. Just want to know your philosophy on that position deadline.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely a hot topic. I see that's something everyone likes to talk about, and I understand that. I think goaltending, right or wrong, gets the most attention in a game, and I think with our 2 goalies. Probably the last stretch hasn't been their best, and that's probably why there's a lot of attention. But I try to look at things over like the bigger sample, and I think so. If you break it up, we had a slow start to our season, our team included. And I think our goalies didn't.
So I'm just gonna pause it right here because I already think this explanation is getting way too long, and that's why I worry.
Get out of the gate strong, and then from November until probably the end of January, I thought our goaltending was really solid. I thought it was, and ever since then, it hasn't been as good. So understandable, but I do think that last night's a pretty good reference point. I think that's what we can see. I thought Stu made a lot of saves for us, and it's an important position. Absolutely, we're trying to not put so much pressure on them so that they have to save games for us. And I think we did a good job of that as a team for those stretch of months when our goaltending performed well. I think our team did a good job. I think our team game has escaped us a bit over the last probably 5-6 weeks, and as a result, it puts more pressure on your goalies. So I'd like to see both things have a little bit of an uptick, the goalies' performance, both goalies as well as our team, and not putting them in the position to have to save games for us. So, that I guess that's my quick assessment on.
So there's going to be 3 more little clips here, but what did you guys think? They didn't waste any time cutting to the chase because they know how much Oiler fans want to get an answer on this topic. So what did you guys think of that answer?
I think he's just kind of going back to last year and how Skinner did, and he doesn't want to go away from that. Still thinks he can bring in that same effort this year. I'm not too sure about that. I think you go as you going now, not as you were last year. But I guess I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a little too late now to do that. So
yeah, way too late. What about you, Rod?
I agree with some of the points he said. The team play in general wasn't good. Like, there was no defense, too many breakaways, too many 2-on-1s. You can't ask the goalie to. He's a good goalie, but he needs help. He can't do it on his own.
If I can just add one more comment, for instance, like yesterday, I forgot who had a one-timer and hit the goalpost, and it had a whole wide open net, right? And Jan Mark had a breakaway and missed the net, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's not on the goalies, obviously not. Like, it's the players too. A puck coming to you at 90 miles an hour. That's really tough. Then getting going on a breakaway and missing the net, and not hitting a wide open net and hitting the goalpost, right? So It's a two-end sword there, but like Rod's saying, it's obviously the players too, but we need to win those 2-1 games, those 1-0 games. Those are going to come. Those are going to come.
Especially in the playoffs. Terry, what'd you think of that response?
Yeah, I mean it's a political response, right? He's just kind of try, he would say what everybody else says right after a game or whatever it is. They're not going to blame anything, or they're not going to single out one person. And like I said, and then what these guys said as well, like we don't need a superstar goalie. We need a goalie that's just going to make the saves that we need to. I mean, in our chat, I sent that picture, and it's a pretty crazy stat that. When the Oilers have a goalie that's 900 save percentage, they're 29-3-2, I think. And then anything below 900, they're like 16-2 or something like that, right? We don't need a goalie to stand on his head. We don't need a Dominic Hasek to come in and make all of these crazy saves. We need somebody that's going to make solid saves. We need to maybe bail him out, once or twice in a game. And you see what that kind of goaltending is. I mean, you go back to the Four Nations, and Binnington was not playing well, and you have that one game and he makes the saves that he has to, and they end up winning everything, right? And that's really what we need. And it's just, I think Skinner just needs to get that confidence back. There's a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of talks that we're bringing in another goalie. All of that pressure is gone now, right? So they know it's for the most part, probably he's going to be our number one goalie, right? So he can take all of that pressure off and just focus on being a solid goaltender. And I think if we can get that, then the Oilers can make that same run this year.
Yep.
I want to preface what I want to say on that answer first by saying, like, I've been rooting for Skinner to be good. Like, I pray that he can be our number one and he can bring home the cup, because he's such a likable athlete. Like, you want to cheer for the guy. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, he's from Edmonton, right? So, like, you really want him to be successful. But when, like, Stan Bowman says, like, referencing last night's game, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, as a fan base right now, it's like we need a Stanley Cup. Like, we know it's probably never going to happen again that we're going to get the likes of McDavid and Draisaitl at the same time on the same team 20 years from now. Do you get what I'm saying? We need a cup. And, if you're just going to look at last night's game, yeah, that was great. But what about the many, many games throughout the year where he had a sub 900 save percentage, and we would have won a lot of those games, like you mentioned, Terry, if we had a slightly above average goaltending is 900 to 910, right? So, like, it's you want to cheer for him and all that, and you want him to be the guy. And Sam, I kind of disagree with the fact that you think that's behind us, the pressure, or Rod or whoever mentioned the pressure's behind now. Like, I think right now the pressure is 10 times the amount, because now the organization has kind of said, all right, you're the guy. You know what I'm saying? And like, I just think that that's not the type of pressure you can just kind of brush off your shoulders and move on from. Like, it's a lot, and it's a lot to deal with, and us fans are a lot to deal with. But the suffering has been 35 years, guys, and I've been saying for 10 years since Connor McDavid joined the Oilers, since we were so lucky to flip that gold card, we haven't had goaltending, and in fact, we haven't had a number one regular starter since Tommy Salo. It's been 25 years, just over 20 years. So, I mean, it gets to the point where you say to yourself, man, if we just had that goalie, where would this team be? And they made the decision not to make the move. It could have been done during the season. They didn't. But like you said, Terry, very political answer, and just kind of brushed it aside as usual. I think the fans wanted more of a specifics to that, and they just didn't give it. So we're just going to move along here to the timestamp of 13:28. So let's see where that is. Here it is.
You mentioned about your team can play better. A stretch there where they played better. A lot of your forwards have not lived up to last year's standards. Can they just flip the switch and suddenly be playing like they did last year?
I don't know about flipping the switch. I think it's probably more of a process than it is flipping the switch. But I remember sitting in this room when I first started, and I remember saying to the group that the way that sports work is that I think everyone's expectations are everyone is going to pick up where they left off and be just as good or better the next year. And I said, although I hope that's the case, I know it probably won't be. And so we have seen some players they haven't played as well as they did last year. That's a bit the nature of sports, though. And excuse me. I think the fact that it's not a straight line all the time. That whether it's our special teams have been good at times, and I think we've got to find a way, and each player individually has to dig down and find out what is it about their game that was better last year and how can they be better. Sometimes it's just their own individual performance. Sometimes it's who they're with and the way the team is playing. So I don't think it's a matter of flipping a switch. If only it was that easy. I think it's probably a little more nuanced than that, and it requires those players. All they can do is take it upon themselves to be the best version of themselves. And there's certainly room for growth for a lot of our players.
One last thing you've got.
All right. Who wants to answer first? Go ahead, Sam.
I'll jump in on that. So it's a process. Okay, if he's talking about the new Oilers, okay. But the current Oilers, like Hyman, who else? Polkozin, Hopkins. These guys got to get going. Like they have to get going. 20 games left. There's the goal. You got to push on the pedal right now. There's no. Now is when all the teams are fighting for that playoff spot. We're fighting to win the division. It's goal time right now. So if he's talking about the process of the new Oilers, okay, but the current Oilers right now, besides McDavid and Draisaitl, everybody's got to pick it up. Everybody has to pick it up.
Agreed.
And it goes to Rich. What I think you kind of mentioned this, in a previous video is we need some type of team cohesion going in. Other than the first line, we don't even know who's playing on the second line on the left side there, where they're switching players in and switching players out and trying different lineups. And like you said, we're 3/4 of the way through the season, 20 some or whatever odd games left. With new players now that we're integrating into the team, you've got 20 players now to integrate, or 20 games left to integrate these players in, and then get ready for a playoff run. And like you said, once you hit the playoffs, you've got there's no time for that, right? You can't fall behind 1 or 2 games because that could be absolutely devastating for you, and then your season's over.
Great answer, Rod.
I'm hoping they can elevate their game in the playoffs. Like last year, Henrique, Brown, and Janmark were amazing in the playoffs. And let's hope they can find that level in the playoffs. And for me, I think what won them a lot of games in the last couple of seasons is the power play. It's not clicking. And a goal here, a goal there, and a power play makes a big difference.
Especially in the playoffs.
What's even worse is
especially in the playoffs.
Kill, right? The power play at least is somewhat decent. It's the penalty kill also, right? The penalty kill is just atrocious.
Yeah.
Right now it's great. Last week it wasn't. So this is
the physicality too. If we up the physicality, we usually were averaging between 15th and 16th, and I think Rich, you were saying we were 32nd.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a big difference from what we usually average. So if we can,
and the excuse has been made, they had a long playoff run and they come back tired and this and that, but like Florida went to Game 7 too, and they're first in the NHL, right? So yeah. I don't think you can use that as an excuse, especially with 20 games left in the season. Yeah. What I got out of that answer, and I just thought to myself, okay, if I'm a manager, forget about hockey, just in any line of work. If your manager comes in and says, "Hey, nice to meet everybody." And yeah, I don't have an expectation of, it'll be great if you show up on time, but if you're late, it doesn't really matter. Do you get what I mean? Like, I guarantee you everybody's going to be late and everybody's going to show up late. Like, I just don't get that mindset from a general manager to make a comment like that, because that's, I think that plays a big role in some of these players' minds is, oh, well, my GM said at the beginning of the year, if, I'm having a slow year, it's okay. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, to the fan base, that's not enough. We're paying a lot of money to go to these games. And if I go to a game like against Anaheim, which was a stinker, right? I'm going to leave upset. And that's not fair to us as fans, that your GM is actually pushing that kind of frame of mind. It's ridiculous, to be honest. But then whoever was lucky enough to go to that Montreal game, goes to a banger, right? Like, it's just, I think the message from the general manager has a lot to do with player performance, and I just think his answer just kind of said it all right there. Like, I don't know what you guys think, but that's what I think. Let's move on to the next one here, which
along those lines, big picture strategy. There are those who would say, you're in this window, you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on their, their previous deals here, that you got to be all in every year while you have these guys. What would you say to those who would, ask that question? Did you push enough chips in considering the window you have with these guys? And what's your philosophy about that versus keeping something in the cupboards for the future?
Yeah, I think we're all in to try to win right now. I mean, that's been our focus for sure. Just we don't have many draft picks this year. We got a couple, which is, it's tough on the amateur scouts, but I understand that that's the price of being a team that's trying to add to their group. So there was no hesitation to trade first round picks or prospects. That wasn't you're not just going to carelessly trade them away. But I think that was a big part of the reason we got Wallman, was we stepped up and gave him a first rounder. And I don't know if they had that from other teams, but I think that's what ultimately got it done for us, is we didn't mess around and try to get too cute with it. We saw a player we valued and we went out and got him. So first round picks are valuable, but players are even more valuable for where we are. So we were aggressive on that front.
Terry, go ahead.
I mean, if he's saying we're all in, I 100% don't believe we are. I mean, even when my first comment at the beginning of the video, we had three major areas, in my opinion, that we had to address: goaltending, being more sturdy defensively, and then that big left side play along Draisaitl. And after all of the trades are done, we've maybe filled one of those spots with Wallman, right? So to go all in, I don't like his comments saying that we are, because you have to look at it from the team perspective and a fan perspective. Is we have not won a cup yet. Like, you can have this kind of mentality after, maybe we've won one cup and it's the year after or something, and we've already had that cup. But we're 10, think about this, we're 10 and 11 years in, essentially with McDavid and Draisaitl. 9, 10 or 10, 11 years with McDavid and Draisaitl, right? And they're not getting any younger, right? Yeah, Draisaitl just signed his big contract and all of that kind of stuff, but 10 years in and we haven't won a Stanley Cup yet, right? So, I mean, to go all in, I would agree with him if we filled all of the spots that everybody knows, from the fans all the way up to the critics, up to, the coaches and everything. Everybody knows those were the three areas that we needed to kind of focus on. So, on that end, it just doesn't seem like he has that type of urgency, or, like you said, he just didn't do enough and he's trying to cover up for it. But again, the trade deadline's done, so we're going to have to go with what we have, and hopefully these pieces kind of fall into place.
Rod?
I'm happy with what they did, but I'm not super excited.
Do you think, though, he answered that he felt they went all in? Do you feel they went all in?
I don't think so. I think they could have done more.
Okay.
They had
Sam?
to do more.
Well, a great question by Rashog there. Like I said, I was looking, hopefully, maybe getting a top six forward, someone to play with Draisaitl. Like that's what I was looking for, or maybe just a shocker trade, like a blockbuster,
Like a Rantanen.
like yeah, like you
Like
know,
you get a
give up,
Rantanen, you can safely say they went all in.
Sacrifice 2-3 players for a player and a draft pick, or just something, right? Something to tell this fan base, like, okay, guys, like, you know, we're going all in this year. Like, you know, like you're saying, we need the cup. Like, these players that we picked up, yes, good players, but not players that are, you know, you know, we'll wait and see. I guess we'll wait and see.
The issue
Well,
is
I
the summer
mean, so
UFAs.
all three have answered to that. Basically, no, they didn't go all in, and I'm with you guys. There's no way you can call, you know, that all in. I'm sorry. Like, again, it's missing a lot of the blockbuster kind of sprinkle to it. There's just, I mean, it's great we got Wallman, and I think in the long run, like, it's got longevity to it. But I mean, bringing in a guy like Frederick and Jones, and I'm happy we got them. They're needed, but there just isn't that, you know, Hollywood blockbuster move to say, all right, the Edmonton Oilers have officially gone all in. So, yeah, great answers, guys, and I think we're all in agreement there, and I think most fans are in agreement there. As mentioned, we have a poll running, and it's like almost 90% have voted that they did not go all in.
But you guys
One
have to
more,
understand
and
the
then we'll
UFA
finish up here.
Sorry,
What's
the
that?
UFA signings tied up their hands a lot too, eh?
Yeah, but like I said, like Terry mentioned it, your year 9.5 with McDavid and year 10.5 with Draisaitl. Like, enough's enough, right? Like,
Yeah.
make that move, shut us up, you know, and get us that cup.
We
That's
can
all
go
we
to
want.
as many Game 7 Stanley Cup Finals as much as we want, but until we have that cup, those don't matter.
No,
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
And that matters, and matters just as, or even more for the players as well. I mean, we're frustrated. Imagine, you know, McDavid and Draisaitl, how they feel, right?
Yeah.
Year after year, they're going through this grind and everything else like that. And again, it's not the trade deadline's done. There's nothing else we can do, right?
But Terry, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were 9 years old, and when we were going to the Stanley Cup Final in 06, you know what I mean? Like, this is the point I'm trying to make is, like, to have a devastating 06 Stanley Cup Game 7 loss for this fan base, followed by a decade of darkness, followed by getting the best, you know, skill-wise player of all time, and then 10 years have passed, and last year was another Game 7 crushing. Like, that's a lot to take for a fan base. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot.
Well, Rich, all we got to do is let's see if we can get Pisani out of retirement there. You know he's going to be good for at least 15 goals or so in the offseason. That could be a shoo-in to put us over the hump.
You know what? I'm very confident we can get Fernando on the show. So we got to get to 1,000 subscribers. So subscribe to the channel. We'll start bringing some cool guests. There's one more question. It's actually two questions back to back. So I'll pause it though after the first one. All right, here it is.
Stan, sorry to go back a little bit here, but I know when you didn't match the two offer sheets in August that you did, part of the reason for that was you wanted to have some flexibility going forward here. Do you feel like you maximized that flexibility in the last few days here?
Yeah, well, I think all you can really do is deal with the information you have at the time. So at the time, Evander was not going to have this setback and was going to be, would have been a different decision if you knew that he wasn't going to play this year, right? But so that's a little bit of rewriting history. So I think given where we are and the players that we've added, you know, through that whole process, Emberson and Podkolzin have been really good players for us. Like, I think they've come in, and I would say they've certainly exceeded my expectations for how they're going to incorporate into our group. They're two young guys. We are an older team, so to have them come in and look like they're going to be parts of our future, I think is a positive thing. So, and in particular, the most recent couple moves we made, I think We got guys that aren't older. I mean, they're not like 2021, but they're on the younger side of additions to a team at the deadline. And I think that's going to bode well for us.
All right, let's go with Rod. What did you think of that answer?
He didn't maximize. They didn't maximize the cap at all. He didn't use the money he needed to use or save up the money that he wanted to save up. And they lost 2 great prospects. Can you imagine Holloway on Draisaitl's line right now? You don't have to go look for anyone.
We're not supposed to talk about that anymore. I'm having issues with that
I
still.
know.
So,
But
Terry.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
Terry, what'd you think of that? What'd you think of that answer?
It's those answers. You can almost predict what he's gonna say when they say stuff like, "Do you think you did this? Do you think you did that?" He's always good. You always know they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I think we did." Do you think you went all in? Yeah, I think we went all in. So I mean, it's just him being an optimist. Again, it's all subjective, I guess. In the end, I know we don't talk about Holloway, but Roger, right? I mean, Holloway's having a really good season right now with St. Louis, and they're actually pushing right now to possibly make the playoffs. Philip Broberg, not as much, but he definitely has a big upside. But I mean, I think Holloway's got 20 goals and 25 assists or something else like that. Definitely would have helped us on the left side. So I agree. Yeah, we definitely didn't capitalize. And it doesn't help that Holloway's having such a good season in St. Louis there.
Sammy, you want to chime in on this one?
Sure. So I'll agree with him on the Emberson parts. Podkolzin, he's just been MIA. I don't know what he means about that. I'm not going to get into the Dylan, Holloway, and Broberg. I think, like you said, Rich,
okay, then, because I would like to. So the question was it started off about the offer sheets. So when I heard this, I said, okay, finally this smoke and mirrors is done. Like, this is like the 5th time somebody has asked him about it. And to be honest, he deflected right away into Podkolzin and Emberson, which technically are not part of those offer sheets, guys. Am I wrong? Like, those are separate transactions. Cody Ceci went for Emberson, and Podkolzin was traded for a 4th-round pick.
And Podkolzin is $1 million. It's not like
It doesn't matter. The point is, he was asked about those players not being signed and creating cap flexibility. Well, there's still what did you say, Rod? 1.7 million left in cap space or something?
I don't know. 1 million.
I think.
Whatever the case is, you didn't maximize your cap space, and you let those guys go unnecessarily, especially Holloway. So, again, another deflected question, and it's just like we're never going to know the real answer to what happened there. So I just have to maybe accept it. And then there was a awesome question here right at the end. Let's just hear it quickly.
So you talked about not hesitating, giving up on first rounders, but what's the asset management going to look like come 2027?
Boy, that's a tough one to predict. 2 years out. I think there's a lot that changes over a 6-month period or a year. 2 years out, we certainly have our staff whose part of their job is to be looking 2 and 3 years down the road, and I love that about the group we have here on the analytics side, on the scouting side. They're spending their time really giving me options and different scenarios that we might have to look into down the road. So you're constantly balancing the present with the future. So I don't want to give the impression that the future doesn't matter, but I think if you're trying to decide between the two, we're clearly not a team that's looking to build and be better like 3 years from now relative to now. I think now the present is what matters with this group, and I think there's a lot of ways to maintain that, though, over time. If we do our job in our scouting and our player development side and our analytics, even though we don't have as many assets as some of these other teams, I think we can still be competitive and be a team that can maintain that level for years to come.
Were Savoy and O'Reilly two players you were pretty confident?
Just gonna pause this now. So I'm gonna take this one, fellas. So, like, to me, that answer just made me want to like rip out my eyebrows. You're basically admitting right now that you're so confident that you have staff that specifically focus on 2 to 3 years down the road and the analytics. And again, how can that entire staff, not just Bowman, not just Jeff Jackson, and not just Holland, who completely wrecked the Oilers, how on earth, if you have a whole team that's specifically looking at that, do you not sign Holloway or match that contract? It doesn't make any sense, guys. It doesn't make any sense. That's what I get out of that. I don't know about you.
It sounds like he doesn't know anybody that's up and coming. That didn't sound like that at all.
It's crazy. Just like, whatever. Like, you have a
I
whole team that focuses on down the road and the prospects, and you let go 2 of your best prospects. Like, I understand Broberg and his contract was too big maybe, but at the end of the day, how do we have that in our, like, whoever is doing that in our system, like, heads should have rolled for that non-match of Holloway in my opinion. Like, I don't know how those people still have positions.
Well, and the crappy thing is also is that just puts more emphasis on how much we need to win a cup now, because we don't have any plans in the next 3 years or 4 years or down the road. We need to win a cup now, because I'll admit, if we can win a cup, this year or within the next year, I'll go through another decade of darkness. I'm fine with that. But if we don't, and then we have to go into that situation, it's going to be another long, really drawn out time for the Oilers.
100%. Well, we seem to have lost Rod in the shuffle there somehow, but that's pretty much going to do it for today's episode. That was the Frozen Oil trade 24-25 trade deadline recap. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Rod, wherever you are in the world right now. And we're gonna call it a day, and that's it. This is what we're going to war with, guys. So best of luck to the Oilers, and hopefully we bring that cup home.
Go Oil.
Go Oilers, go.
Frozen or hockey, the channel you need. Oilers on the ice, unstoppable speed. Chasing the cup, we're gonna succeed. With David leading, we're built to exceed.